Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Charlton Chronicles. I'm Callum. It's me again. Emma's not feeling very well, so I am the replacement host. I hope everyone's all right with that. I am joined by Paul, Steve,
Hiya.
Sid, and we have a special guest fan, Chris. How you doing this evening?
I'm really good, thank you. Very nice to be here, I have to say.
Don't that
Fantastic,
special.
fantastic. uh, we're gonna have a chat firstly about Derby. Then we're gonna have a chat with Chris about his Charlton journey and his Charlton fandom. And then we'll probably spend a few minutes, unfortunately, having to discuss the trip to the House of Horrors on Saturday. What we will not be discussing is the absolute nothingness that we learnt from that PR meeting that was held for an hour. What an absolute waste of an hour of my life that was. Right, let's chat Derby. Shall we start? Shall we start by sort of, I guess, really quickly? What were your overall thoughts on what was an incredibly frustrating night at the Valley? Let's start with Chris. Why not? Start with the new guy.
That first half, I was apoplectically angry. We got a free kick 25 yards out and kicked it backwards. Now I know that was for Connor to cross it, but what I was furious the first half, and did that stupid Twitter thing of this is the worst ever. And then the second half, we were kind of a bit better. But what? I just don't know what's happened to the team. It's like this is just a different team to the one that we had. You think of, I don't know, Sheffield United away or Hull away, and that effort, and they're just arguing amongst themselves. I just really frustrating. I've gone back to it yesterday and a couple of games recently. It felt a bit more like the League One Burton away style games where you're just like, what is going on? So yeah, that was me. And the problem is we went when they got the second. You think we ain't going to get two because we can't score, no matter how many strikers we seem to have. And and team selection I find mad. They don't seem to know where they're meant to be playing. Other than that, the guy won 15 grand on the Crossfire Challenge. So not all bad.
Well, at least one person had a good night, along with the 2,000
Yep.
Derby fans in the away end. Stephen Sid, shall we come to you? I kind of want to be slightly mean and arsed about the TC goal, so I'm going to do that in a second. Steve, let's start with the let's start with the first goal for Derby. Calamity, Schoolboy. Where do you stand on that spectrum?
Either of those will suffice, I believe, mate. Yeah. Let's. It's just too easy to score against us at the moment, isn't it? We're making errors. Positionally, on the ball, marking, we're not tracking. It's too easy to beat one of our players and get into a dangerous situation. There doesn't seem to be any of the awareness that we had at the start of the season where the back 5, 3, 4, whatever you want to call it, functioned as a unit. Everyone knew what their job was. Everyone knew what they were doing. People knew where each other would be. Lloydie didn't look himself from the start. I must say that. My mate Frank said that early doors. I don't wonder if he's injured or we may not see him second half. But we were just all over the place. And the first goal just epitomised that. I mean, I'm not sure if he had time to sort his feet out as the ball came across. I might be being harsh on Gillespie there. But yeah, you couldn't have scripted a more comical finish to that whole move where it ends up going in off of our defender who can't get his feet sorted out in time. But yeah, it was symptomatic of the first half, wasn't it? We were all over the place defensively. We didn't look solid in any way, shape or form. It was another one of those scenarios where they looked like they could score at any particular time of the day. But to concede a goal that funny at that period of time, and it just knocked the stuffing out of the ground, didn't it? Knocked the stuffing out the fans. It looked like it knocked the stuffing out the players. The level dropped from where I was standing after that goal. Theirs obviously jumped up another one. And I suppose, again, we were potentially lucky to go in one down rather than 2 or 3 again. But it just seems to be a sign of the times again, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'll come to Sid on the second goal, and I'll let Paul do the wax lyrical about the TC goal. Sid, the second goal. I'm going to take the first bit, which is Fuller on the breakaway, because it's something that has driven me mad about every attacking midfielder we have. You're on an overload. Play the ball. right? If you're not going to play the ball, we're on overload. If you turn it over, they're going to be in transition and they're going to get an overload. So kick it out.
Yeah.
Don't get tackled at the top of the box. And I'm not gonna bash Ibi Fuller. He's a kid. He's an 18-year-old, whatever he is now. It's not on him, right? And I'll ask you about, but it's one of those things where it's like it's game awareness, isn't it? Right? And I look at the second part of that goal, and you're a centre back, right? When you play, what on earth did you think of that defensive shape on the second part of that goal? Because I thought it was absolutely atrocious.
I mean, it was pretty bad because obviously, Fuller. Obviously not going to blame him, but he had options to his right that he could have used, but tried to cut inside and obviously didn't work. Guys got straight back up and has run down the pitch. To be honest, from where we were sitting, it looked like the guy shot it straight at the goalkeeper, but then you just saw the Derby fans explode. But yeah, that's pretty bad to go from one end of the pitch to the other within the space of about 30 seconds and then just running and score. Especially if that's me, you've got to be tracking back. Like, you're giving it everything to get back and try and make that tackle or to try and interfere in that shot. But, none of the players were really running back. I think they just kind of knew. But then again, it all starts from where you lose the ball. But then none of them tried to really win it back, and the break was just crazy, like, speed. And it is quite sad to think that you can just lose a goal that quickly. And also, yes, Chris in the comments, do bring back the live.
Couldn't resist
it. It's so frustrating. I think he chips the keeper. The keeper probably goes down early. It's a 1-on-1. I think if we're the only player at the moment, it seems to really be doing a heck of a lot at the moment is the goalkeeper. So I'm less whatever to criticise him. As I say, that's the last time I'm criticising Ibi Fuller on this podcast, by the way, because I don't think it's fair on the lad. He should not be learning his trade at 18 years old in the Championship in a game like that, right? It's not his fault, right? He's made a mistake. Kerry made the same mistake against Coventry 3 weeks before, right? So that's all I'm going to say on it. But I need to bring it up because you can't turn the ball over there. But I'm not going to go and bash the academy kid for that. Right, Paul.
But he will learn, and he's obviously got the football intelligence that he will learn. So absolutely. So it's just another part of his journey, really. 18 years of age, so much promise. So again, as I say, he was going to continue to make that mistake again. Then fair enough. But of course, he won't. We know he won't. Fair play to that.
Absolutely not. I thought he was a bright spark when he came on. I thought that. He actually showed quite a lot of technical quality in there. It's just that final bit, right? And when you're 18 years old, that final bit, he's not Lamine Yamal,
But the fact that, sorry to interrupt again, but the fact that you've said an 18-year-old is providing spark, that says it all, doesn't it? Really, an 18-year-old kid, promising kid, who will go on hopefully to have a great career. But we're relying on that guy to come on and give us a spark. And what does that tell you about the rest of his colleagues? But anyway, sorry, carry on.
It's all right, Paul. I'm coming back to you anyway because I'm going to ask you about actually what was a very nice moment, which was a rather lovely finish in Tyrese Campbell, to be 100% fair to him. But I also want to ask you a question about the free kick that Gillespie had. The keeper's made an absolute wonder save on it. But am I the only one thinking, can we stop the carry on the free kick thing now, please? If Gillespie's on the pitch, now he can't defend at this level at the moment. But he can take a set piece. Can we stop with the Kerry firing the ball right at the goalkeeper thing? Or am I going mad?
No, I got a video I've got a video of Sonny's attempt in the first half, and I just said it'd be not more with this, please, but try not to, aiming at the keeper basically. So, those are the sort of sentiments. So yeah, absolutely. Maka, as we know, has gone down to Charlton folklore forever as scoring the goal that got us to I wouldn't say the promised land, but you know what I mean, the Championship. So yeah, we often point out some of his shortcomings on this podcast, but where he's got skills, really important skills, then use them absolutely, really. So I felt a bit for him, but absolutely, he was unlucky with that effort. So yeah, anything of that in that range, yeah, get Maka on the case, I think. But going back, you haven't asked me this obviously, but as you know, I tend to sort of go off on tangents. But I harp on a lot of things on this podcast, as you know, and I think I've said it before, we have a manager that, and Steve touched on it, that talks about doing the basics right. This is one of his main tenets. Yeah, Steve said, we want people to harry. We want people to sort of press and make it difficult for the opposition, basically. Even if we're not creative in our forward play, then at least make it bloody difficult for the opposition so they can't cut us to ribbons. And it's that sort of thing where you think, it's basic, isn't it? You try and mark your man. If it's, 80th, 85th minute and you're flagging fair dues, you're going to be tired in mind and body. But when it's the first half, I mean, again, it's just it was pretty awful. And as Sid said, we lost it in transition at the edge of their penalty area. In League One, we could get back and repel all borders, but in this league, you're going to get killed for that. And it's like, and it's the sort of thing that we have only ourselves rarely done. I think of sort of Ipswich and maybe one or two other games. Maybe Bristol City obviously didn't score, but we had a lot of offensive intent. And it's just that sort of thing, really. We should be able to do stuff to others before they do it to us. And it's, he still had a ways to go. It was a bit like QPR, wasn't it? The guy who came from his own half and sort of slalom through people. And it's like, well, he's still got 50 yards. Forgive me, I don't know the dimension of the football pitch, but he probably had 50 or 60 yards to go once they won it off Ibby. And it was just like pretty basic stuff, And I know Bobby Clark's a class player. He was playing for Liverpool. I think Red Bull Salzburg spent about 10 million on him, didn't they, last year? So he has plenty of ability. And we don't have those sort of players, but still, really guys come on, put up a better effort, really. So yeah, it was incredibly frustrating because they weren't that much better than us, really, honestly. And it's just another missed opportunity,
I think the one thing I would say about that goal as well, just to because I think Mark and Stuart are both in there, they're both right. I'm not blaming Ibby. My frustration is more about the 10s more widely and not making the right pass. And he was the one that lost the ball on the transition, so you do have to mention it. It's not, say we're not going to pile in on him at all. He was far from the biggest issue last night.
Well, it's kind of a by the by. He lost it. That's the fact. Yeah. But as I say, there was a lot more to do for others to do to help him out. Basically,
Burke losing that to Adjumang in the middle of the pitch. You can't lose that there. And I get it's Adjumang, right? He is a bit of a freak at this level, and worth 7 million quid and all the rest of it. But he's probably worth 10 or 15 now. But you can't be losing that in the centre circle, and that seems to be happening even to Lloyd now. Is that we keep losing those one-on-ones in the centre, and then we don't have the outside fullback speed. You just knock it down the Macca side, and we can't get back. Shall we, Steve? Shall we just go into the comments just for a second? And
100% sure. Evening to everyone that's posted so far. Jack mentioned shocking game last night, but good to see TC score. Tom was in the North Lower covered Block B last night. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Chris mentioned shocking game last night. Mark's mentioned shocking again. Where do we go from here? Always seem to start games when we're 1 or 2 goals down, which is very true. My mate Steve, crossbar challenge was the best part of the night. Yes, it probably was, yeah. We're talking about Steve again. First half could have been a lot worse. Kaminsky kept us in it. Chris knew that would get a smile, obviously, with Sid and Dobbo. Just a bit of a defence for Ibby there. But as I say, you've explained yourself there, Callum. It was just mentioned rather than a comment itself.
Yeah, please. I'm really not. I'm not going to go down his
Charlie's actually fearing relegation now. Archie wanted to find out how we're feeling on Chambers, the new signing for today.
We'll get there.
Archie also said TC's goal was class. Mark's worried about where we go from here in regards to the run since Wrexham, finishing with 45 and potentially going down. Joe's mentioned that we're lacking a bit of ingenuity in the final third so far for most of the season. Yeah, that's probably very accurate, to be honest with you. And Charlie's just put in there that he thinks that Chambers is a good signing. So, yeah, a bit of comment on last night. Bit of pessimism, bit of optimism, new signing.
Yeah, should we just really quickly chat about the new signing? Because let's be honest, do any of us really want to spend more than that amount of time talking about that? I got absolutely soaked in the pouring rain, and it was incredible.
It's a left wing back. It's a left wing back. Don't you want to talk about it for 20 minutes? Or?
I do. I actually want to spend the next hour just talking about left wing backs until Emma comes and kicks me off. So let's have a bit of a chat about Luke Chambers. a question. Did anybody know who Luke Chambers was before the announcement this afternoon? I did remember him at Wigan. First game of the season last year, Gassan sort of physically, was physically was pretty dominant against him, but that was a pretty, he's not the biggest lad in the world, which was a bit of a worry. The injury history, the back injury, but actually I thought when Wigan came down and were absolutely dreadful outside of their goalkeeper at the Valley, I actually thought that he was someone that looked as if he had a bit of ingenuity. Chris, are you like me? Do you think that we still need more cover down that side?
Yeah, completely. I mean,
but what do you think about that signing?
To be honest, I don't really know because it's another injury-plagued signing for us. It would seem, but if he's better, then brilliant. Wigan fans really, really rated him as long as he can keep fit. Obviously, from Liverpool, so he's played at a decent level. It's just you just don't know. I mean, we seem to be signing players quite often that start off like Bree, incredible, and we're saying, "Oh, sign him on a 5-year contract," and he goes back to Southampton, and everyone's like, "Meh." And I just worry that he's going to come in, be brilliant at first, then just drop off, and I don't know why that keeps happening. I know it's like anything; you try harder when you first join a club or start a new job or whatever. But I think he'll be. I mean, if he's really good on Saturday, then really that's all we need from him, really. But I think for what we can do, I think it's a decent signing in January. I think sort of it can go either way. But I think left wing back because with Joshy out for even longer than it looked, it could be the whole season now. So yeah, I'm pleased.
Stephen said, so Mark brings up a really good point actually here, which is saying that basically you get the left wing back, that is great, and I am happy about it. But it still leaves that you've got Maka and someone playing next to someone who's inexperienced at this level, which is a true point. Now you can't trust Amari Bell at this point to stay fit. We know that it's the same hamstring over and over and over again. Do you think that we need to go and get ourselves a left-sided centre back, or do we need to get ourselves another full-back that can actually play at centre back? If that question makes sense, it does in my head.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the answer is, in my opinion, and it might be one that's not very unpopular. Someone has to replace Maka. It's just so relevant on a 90-minute basis now that we are getting punished. And Mark's 100% right there. Sides are going to be targeting that guy. The lack of pace. I mean, even positionally, which is it's not about pace. It's not about fitness. It's about experience. He looked like he was all over the place again last night. I don't think TC helped him in the first half whatsoever. But that's the age-old argument. You either, if he doesn't want to play left wing back, don't play him there. If he does, teach him how to track back and tackle. But yeah, in regards to Maka, I think we could potentially be a little bit heavy in regards to centre halves. We brought the new guy in who's a centre half. I'd probably prefer to see the defensive left back come in and fill the void, which sent mixed messages from the new signing today. I read the blurb on the guy, and the first thing he said was he's looking forward to scoring goals and getting assists. And I'm thinking, oh great, we've got centre forward. I didn't know who this guy was. Next thing, he's left back, which is worrying. But there you go.
His heat map is cracking. Actually, if you look at it, it's a cracking heat map.
By those comments, I would quite imagine that it is. He's got to be an up and down wingman then, which must mean he's got energy, he's got fitness, he's got pace, which is great. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll be good. But yeah, there are a few holes that we need to plug in this window, and that one in regards to Gillespie is one of them. That's a massive priority. It's a massive priority.
Sid, are you in agreement? What do you think of the signing? One of the things I noticed, and I was chatting to the guy next to me, he was sort of saying to me, God, it looks like Maka's head's gone down. And I think that this is probably a thing with Maka, as we've seen this before, where once his confidence takes a bit of a hit, it looks for a couple of games like he doesn't know how to play football anymore because his confidence just seems to drain. Is that what you're seeing? Or
I mean, I think something needs to change there because he's not, like in the nicest possible, he's not good enough in defence against these attackers and strikers in the league. I mean, maybe in League One that was a lot easier, but I mean, it's championship time now. It's not messing about time. So yeah, something does need to happen. I mean, about the new signing, one of my friends knew who it was when the video of him came out, but before his name was announced, and I looked him up and I saw that he was a left back, and I thought, oh, like this might be all right, but he's never he's never played championship football before, and he hasn't played since last year. I think it was like April or something.
April 25, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like Resilient, and you know that's not kind of the standard. Like we want players that you know, more experienced. They know how to deal with these attackers. And obviously I haven't seen the guy yet, so I can't fully judge. But and he is only young, but we must just be bringing him in to, you know, kind of make the fans think, well, we are getting people in, and we are trying to make the squad better. So I guess we'll just have to see what the squad brings for him and what he brings to the squad.
That's a fantastic transition. Thanks, Sid, because I'm going to ask Paul exactly about that. Firstly, I think probably, and this is just my opinion, is that if there's a player in the Championship that's playing week in and week out at left back, you're not going to be able to sign him. Everybody knows that we are desperate for a left back. Everybody is holding us over a barrel for a left back because they realise they can get the finances out of it. That's our fault for squad building in the summer. Well, I'd be interested, Paul, just really quickly on your opinion on the signing, and then also in terms of what else you need. It sounded the one thing the directors did seem to say was Rodwell did break his PR sort of position, and sort of came out and said, yeah, there should be more coming in. What would you be focused on after this signing? Where do you think the sort of really key area is?
Well, you mentioned squad building. Did I miss something? I was going to say about Luke Chambers. I hope that he will be that he might be at the left-sided version of Conor Bradley. I hope that we'd be that lucky. But yeah, as you say, I mentioned last time about this doom-laden 6-word caveat. If you keep me fit or whatever, that's 5 or 6 words, whatever. Yeah, so if we can get other players in, and as you said, Rodwell seemed pretty adamant that we would probably get at least 1 or 2 in. Well, I mean, we've talked about creative players, haven't we? So if we can get some sort of, you know, nugget from wherever to give us some sort of creative spark in midfield and not have to rely on Ibby for our creativity, and that would be good. I don't think you can ever have too many decent standard defenders, or indeed anywhere. I mean, going back to Macca, I mean, we had the conversation, didn't we? You know, Argyle were more than happy to let Macca go when they ran up to the Championship, and that tells its own story, basically. Probably similar to Alex Mitch being let go by Millwall, similar scenario. So yeah, I mean, as I say, I'll wing it and just say you can't have, you know, too many high class midfielders, defenders. We're sort of kind of stacked as regards bodies in attack. Obviously, they've all got different issues. We haven't got one star striker. Well, hopefully, Goddard will get back to where he was. But again, we're relying on, is he 33 now?
34.
Coming off 34, yeah, coming off a severe injury. So again, it's, you know, we may have quite a few 5 or 6 strikers, but, you know, are any of them conclusively striking, as it were, in more ways than one? So yeah, so I'd certainly like a creative midfielder, but as you say, it's like gold dust in January.
Yeah.
You know, if people know you're desperate for a particular position, they're just going to go and say, oh, okay, then we know you've got billionaire owners. Show us the money. Exactly. Yeah. Show us the money, basically. So, as I say, I mean, obviously, jury's out on Chambers. I really hope he comes good. But again, it is worrying, isn't it? You know, when Sid said he hasn't played for the best part of a year, 9 months, and you're throwing him into the sort of hotbed of the Championship. Yeah, I know he's played a few times for Liverpool and what have you. Played for Wigan at League One level. So he's obviously got through some work, but again, you know, he may, as I say, he may be sort of the type of player that Conor Bradley was for Bolton. You know, really revelatory. I mean, I hope he is, but you know, I'll sort of reserve judgment until he steps on the field. No doubt he's got skills. I'm sure he'll be a cut above, but again, it's that, you know, can he get through 19, 20 games this season? You know, that's what we want. or a good number of those games. So, but so yeah, in terms of, as I said, other certainly not a creative midfielder or a dynamic midfielder wouldn't go amiss. And as I say, we're stacked in the striking department, but if we can pick someone up, sort of a nugget in the rough or whatever, then fine. But again, we don't want to get down to sort of deadline day and be sort of scrabbling about and have that Fofana sort of scenario, where we're just like, it's 11 p.m. on the last day and we're still scrabbling about. As I say, we need to try and conclude it by, sort of 48 hours before and go from there, really, because otherwise it's just, I still remember, I think was it 2012 January when Torres did the dirty on Liverpool, and they managed to get Suarez, but they also paid an absolute shed load for Andy Carroll. So what? I'll leave it. I'll leave it there.
I'm gonna just pick up two things I've just seen in the comments, just because I think I can answer them really fast before we have a chat to Chris in far happier tones about his Charlton journey.
Ooh.
We hope. But there was a thing about Junior Ligue. I don't know how you say it. He's Ivorian, he's Swiss, but he's from Ivorian descent, so it must be Liege, I think. All I know is I have one mate who is Swiss from my time at uni, who was a fan of. He's actually a Basel fan, but he was saying 442.ch are actually pretty accurate. So if they're saying that's happening, that they're talking to Zurich, that reporter is pretty close to Zurich, according to him. Whether that's true or not, I know nothing about Swiss media, but I just thought I would pick that up. That would be another left wing back. And then the other one is just we're talking about Alex Mitchell in there. Mark saying that Plymouth fans are perplexed that we've given them Mitchell, they love him, and kept Maka. Well, yeah, but they're also in the league below, and we're in the relegation zone for most of the last 4 months. So I have a sort of thing of it. If you put Alex Mitchell into the Championship, teams will just press him to death. He's not good enough on the ball to play against teams. Maybe against Derby it'd look all right because they don't press, but any team that presses, he'd be completely out of his depth, and I'm pretty comfortable in saying that. Other people may disagree, but I'll just give my opinion on that. Chris, shall we chat about you and Charlton?
Yeah, how far back do you want to go? To the beginning of my supporting, or
absolutely? Let's hear your Charlton story. How did you? When did you start supporting Charlton?
Okay. So I was born in Bromley, but then moved around a lot. Moved to Germany, then back to Bromley, then to Hastings, then to Bromley, then to Brighton. For no glamorous reason. It's just my mum liked to move a lot. She built up debts and then would just move to another town. So when I was young, I had no skin in Charlton Athletic at all, just a name at the bottom of the second division. But a mate of mine at school, junior school, invited me, and this was in 1974, which Sydney, that was a year that we had. It was a real year. So I was like, okay, it was a Tuesday night, and I've always thought it was against Halifax, but I've looked up the record books and I can't see that it was against Halifax. It was Tuesday night in 1974. And I walked in, and they used to stand in what's now the Jimmy Seed stand. And I walked into the ground and I looked, and I just thought, this is the greatest thing I'd ever seen. So I said to them, I was there, bear in mind, the game hadn't kicked off. I said, is there a souvenir shop? And they said, yeah, you go over to the left. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but it was like where the West End car park is now. There was a little tiny sort of hut that sold 3 or 4 things. So I went in and bought this vinyl bag for school that said Charlton Athletic on the side, and went back, and they were like, but it hasn't kicked off. And I remember my friend's mum saying, you're going to really have to like them now, aren't you? And that was it. It just was. From then, I was just, every home game I'd go to, firstly with them, and then on my own. And then it got to like the late 70s, and which again is years that we had. And it got very violent. I remember one particular game against Cardiff City. I got chased through Charlton Park by Cardiff fans. At the game, there was a fight next to me, so I moved. There was another fight, and which is pretty much what football was like in the late 70s. Then got chased on the way back to get the bus. And then my mate got his scarf nicked, and we got mugged by some other Cardiff fans. And it was just, I stopped enjoying it and stopped going. And then left school. And I mean, if you want me to slow this down, I can. And I left school and I got a job quite quickly working for music papers as a journalist. So I was touring with rock bands when I was like 17, interviewing all bands like Iron Maiden and Rush, which I know that's how Paul and I first connected, and going on the road with them. And football just took a back seat. I used to look out for Charlton's results, but they were just something I used to do. And then left the Valley, and I was working away, so I didn't go to that. And then went to Selhurst, and there was just something I just felt a pulling back, a calling of. I feel a bit bad now. They're kind of playing there at this supermarket with a football ground attached. So started going to Selhurst, and bang, it was all back. Fell back in love. Was a season ticket holder at Selhurst. Missed a handful of games when we were at Selhurst. Then season ticket holder at West Ham when we went over there. Back at the Valley. And was season ticket holder for many years. So that's my fandom side, which I can go back on. But then because I'd worked, after I stopped writing, I worked in ticketing for bands. So I went on the road with some, quite big names, and sort of got to know people in ticketing and in ticketing companies and worked for a ticket company. So then I thought, I'd quite like to work in football. So got a job at QPR as the assistant ticket office manager. And from there, I QPR were in the same league as Charlton. So I spoke to Chris Parks, who you may know, but the club secretary and ticket office manager. And I said, you back my fandom for Charlton. And he said, well, if you ever get a job here, I'll let you know. I said, thanks. And that was it. But while I was at QPR, I got contacted by someone I knew who'd just gone to work for Sunderland. And he said, look, we're moving to a new ground. It's not been built yet, and it was a stadium of light. Would you like to come up here and have a chat about possibly working as ticketing manager? And I thought, do I really want to do that? I was sort of all right at QPR, but he said, look, we'll send you a train ticket, pay for it, whatever. And a mate of mine lived in Newcastle, so I thought, well, I'll go out for the weekend, have an interview, have a chat. And it was a bit like being a footballer, because they offered me this package of, right, we'll give you a 25% pay increase. We'll put you up in a hotel until you find somewhere to live, and then we'll pay the deposit for that and the first 3 months rent or whatever. We'll give you a car, and we'll give you the train fare back to London once a month for the first 2 weeks. It was like I'd never been offered anything like that, and I don't know that many of us have really. So I thought, well, okay, it's a long way away from Charlton, but a bit of an adventure. So I don't know if any of you remember, there was a programme on BBC called Premier Passions with Peter Reid swearing a lot as the Sunderland manager. It's on YouTube now, and if you find it, try not to, but if you do find it, I'm on that quite a lot, me at Sunderland, and it went absolutely pear-shaped. So if you've got a minute, I'll tell you this little story. When they set it up, they said, right, we're going to set up the ticketing, not in the ticket office because they had a season going on, in a hospitality bar. So a bit like the fans bar at the Valley. So they get the computers and plug them all in during the week, like coupling them up. Bear in mind, this is 1996, 97. Couple them all up. And then on a Friday night, uncouple them, and it became a hospitality lounge with beer being spilt and whatever. The computers, they stored in the gents' toilet, like on top of each other, and then we'd get them out. Sometimes they might be a bit wet, even though the door was meant to be locked. Anyway, plug them all together, and hopefully it will keep people's details. It was before the internet, so this was just a computer program that a mate of the finance manager had written, and it just lost all the information, and it went. It was the chairman at the time wanted to do. He said, "Oh, it's the late 90s now. We're going paperless." So he said, what we want is for someone to come in, give 20 quid, and say, this is towards my season ticket. Oh, thank you very much. Put it on the system, whatever. It just lost loads of information. And I was working, I'd get into work at 7 a.m, leave at 2 the next morning. It was just horrendous. And during all of this, when I thought I've made a bit of a mistake here, the season was just starting, and I got a fax, if you remember them, from Chris Parks at Charlton saying, "Oh, can you give me a call?" Sunderland were due to play Charlton, so I thought it's about the game. And he said, "Oh," I phoned him. He said, "Remember that conversation we had about, if a job came up? Well, I know you're the manager up there, but we've got a job as assistant ticket office manager at Charlton. Would you be in?" Yes. He didn't even finish it. I'm like, yeah, go back to London, work for the club I love. And I got told then that if I left, a bit of feedback. Is that from when I was on the road with rock bands? I was like, well,
Yeah.
I got told, if you leave, you're going to be the scapegoat for all the 16 problems. And I was like, well, I'm not going to stay, just because of that. And I was on the front page of the Sunderland Echo, big picture of me, and it said, "On the sick, ticket office manager disappears from job." And I hadn't, moved back to London to work for Charlton. I've got death threats while I was there. I had people coming to my house. It was just ridiculous. I'm laughing now. At the time, it wasn't that much fun. But then went to Charlton in season 97-98, left Sunderland. Now, I kind of think we probably all know what happened in 1998. So, the end, obviously, Sunderland in the playoff, which, as far as I was concerned, that was me versus Sunderland. And during my year, I was only at Charlton for a year, but it was the best year ever. It's like the first few months, I got to do stuff like, obviously, players would come in, and I'm a bit of a hero worshipper of players anyway, even though they're just the lads at school who were better at football than you were. But, said, "Oh, Chris, this is our new signing, Chris Powell." I was like, "Oh, blimey," just stuff like that. I got to go on the pitch, take Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze onto the pitch to be presented to the crowd. Getting Mark Bright, hiding Mark Bright in the ticket office because he was hiding from Curbs because he'd come in by motorbike and Curbs didn't like him doing that. So I had to smuggle him out the side. Loads of stuff just like that. Lots of little boring stories that I probably told Paul most of before anyway. Then we went up via the playoffs, went to the dinner. Clive Mendonca came up to me and said, "I tell you what, like, you won't be able to go to Sunderland for a while, like." And I'm like, Clive, that might be you rather than me. But then with the promotion to the Premier League, I got promoted to ticket office manager. So what that meant was that I need to reconcile all the money during the game, because at halftime, the Securicore van was coming to take it all away. Nowadays, there's hardly any money. It's obviously all card, but back then it was pretty much all cash. And at the time, the West Ham was being built, like the upper tier. So we were in the car park. I don't know if anyone remembers this from like 97, 98. We're in the car park. So I was sat during the first half of each game, counting money and making sure it balanced. And, Spurs away, we sold 50, so we should have that balances. And out of the window, I could see the East Terrace, now the Curbsy stand. I could see all the people watching Charlton, but I couldn't see the pitch. Now, I don't know if any of you have read George Orwell, but that is room 101. Imagine being out, you're watching the crowd. I didn't have a monitor or anything to see what was going on. I'm watching the crowd watch the team I love and have done for 23 years by that stage, whatever. And there was a couple of things that turned it. One was I'd been, I was at the club for 6 days a week and couldn't get to see the games. And two, one day my phone rang in the ticket office, and it was the person on reception saying, "Oh, Chris, Alan wants a word." And it's Curbs. Now that to me should have been like, "Oh, it's Curbs, blimey." And I was like, oh no, what's he wants to be back to? And I just caught myself thinking, hang on, this is Curbs, who's got us up to the Prem, hero of mine. And I'm thinking, oh no, what's he going to say? Is it going to be an issue? So at that time, a friend of mine was the ticket office manager at Millwall, and he was leaving to go to Middlesbrough. And he said, oh, do you fancy coming and having a chat with our general manager and looking at the job at Millwall? So, yeah, okay. So in that classic, you know, when footballers kiss the badge and leave way, I went for an interview at Millwall and left Charlton to go to Millwall. That partly they were offering a lot more money and they were in League One, but mainly because it meant I could watch Charlton again. And I was at Millwall for like 4 years, had a lovely time there, really enjoyed it. And I know everyone's just thinking, what? But because I didn't care. Like when at Charlton, I cared. I mean, I didn't care. Well, you know, if Millwall were in the cup game and they were going to get through to the next round, I think, well, I'd rather they didn't get through to the next round because I can relax. So that's kind of my journey bit, not up to today, and I'll shut up from there.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm just cognizant of time because we do have to chat about your former employees. I was going to kick you off the podcast for a minute there once you started ranting about Millwall.
I know.
I don't have the power to do it, unfortunately. Just kidding. I'll open up to the panel. If we could kind of keep this just like really, really short. Just a couple of quick questions for Chris before we move on to talking about our trip to the Den.
Chris, obviously, you've sort of started off saying you were a sort of music journo. You were sort of Cameron Crowe before Cameron Crowe, basically. Sounds of it. But you've obviously come sort of full circle. You now write for Mod Mag, one of the contributors to Mod Mag. How did you get into that?
Basically, just hustling. So Mod Mag came out issue 1, and I really liked it. So I just contacted Gav, the editor, and said, look, I said, I've done some writing in the past. Can I submit an article? And I did. It was just about my support, basically my story that I've just told there, really, about what it was like being a Charlton fan, and you know, the years of it was like about how people, and Sydney, I'm very jealous of you for this. You've got it in your blood. This is, you know, from your family, and you're Charlton, and will always be Charlton. I never had that. My family never had any kind of connection to football, really. So that's the first article that I wrote, and then he liked that, Gav. So I've done quite a few things for them now. The last thing I did an interview with Conor Gallagher, which was really interesting because he's just a really nice guy, really open. And then I've interviewed Louis Mendes, Terry Smith, Charlotte Richardson as well, did a little while ago. And I really love it. It's like, you know, I only write now for pleasure, and I really only write most of the stuff for Mod Mag. So, yeah, it was really just a hustle saying, oh, can I, you know, you fancy letting me do a bit of writing? And, yeah, so it was that, really.
So, do you have a question for Chris?
Journalism.
Yeah, I mean, I want to be a sports journalist in the future. So, you know, how did you kind of like come up with ideas and how did you know that you wanted to do that?
It was always something I wanted to do, was be a writer. Like when I was at school, and the careers master that we had then, I don't know if I had them anymore, but said, what do you want? And what do you want to do? And everyone was like, you know, I'll work in a bank or whatever. And I said, I want to write for Sounds magazine, which was at the time the biggest music paper in the country. And within 6 months, I was doing it. Again, it was a bit of sadly, and particularly nowadays, social media, whatever, you've just got to hustle and just keep thinking, that might be a good idea, and write it down. I mean, you know, bits of paper. There you go. Look, this is from today. Work. I just constantly still write things down and think, oh, Dean Holden. Because I live in Yorkshire now, so I travel down to games and to, you know, whatever, and a lot of away games. So I thought, Dean Holden, he's at Hull. That's not far. Oh, and, you know, trying to maybe interview Dean. So it's just trying to think of stuff all the time. But it was much easier back then because there wasn't social media or the internet or mobile phones or what can I do? But the thing is, if you've got you've got a natural bent for this, Sydney. You just have, like I saw you on Charlton TV, and it's just you're just really quick and confident, and a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just having the confidence to not waffle on like I am, but just to think, yeah, I can do this and push yourself, and not care if you get rejected, because that's another big thing. Like you'll say, oh, this article, you'll contact, no, not interested. Oh, okay. And just to keep going back and just keep knocking on those doors, because you have got that natural talent. You can just tell it like on here, and from when you, because most people, I mean, this is what 2-3 years ago you were there with Charlotte. Most people of your age would have just been like, yeah, no, but you were like, well, So yeah, it's just the confidence and the hustle, and just keep thinking of stuff. Just that might be an idea. That might work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Start your Substack, Sid. I think we'd all subscribe, if just for the rants, and nothing else. Steve, do you have a question?
Yeah, amazing stories there, Chris. Great background. Thanks for sharing that, mate. That was really, really, really great to hear and listen to. You've seen some of the very best that we've had to offer over the years in regards to players. Decades at the club. Who have been your favourites? Who have been your most enjoyable players to watch? People that you've really felt like were Charlton legends.
Robert Lee, definitely. John Humphrey. Paul Williams, and I say Robert Lee and Paul Williams, when we were at Selhurst, I sponsored their shirts. It was like 25 quid back then. It was like 25 quid, and you got your name in the programme. That was it. Seeing Rob Lee develop from someone who kept falling over all the time and was always substitute to what he became. John Humphrey, best right back not to play for England. I thought he was superb. Paul Williams was a goal poacher. But it's funny, you just get heroes like at the moment, Josh Edwards. I know he's out at the minute, but I love his commitment. It's like I always say to people, what the sort of player we like is someone like Gary Nelson, who not the most skillful, but just seemed to give everything. Just he'd come off the pitch, and it's like I can't go on. It's almost like James Brown, when James Brown was on stage and you've got to carry on. Nelson was like that. He seemed to give absolutely everything. And I think as a club, those are the players we like, because you see someone come in that's good and you think, oh, they might go. We're not as much of a selling club now, but we are in that area. It's just, now, Nelson would be another one where I just think, players that give their all. But if someone said favourite player, it would be Robert Lee, just because he was, look what he became. He played for England.
Yeah, great choice.
All right, that gives us time. There's some interesting chats in the comments about transfers, about Rob Apter, about loads of different things that I'm sure Emma will probably pick up on Sunday. But let's chat about our trip to our favourite ground. To Chris's favourite ground. Had to do it, Chris. I had to do it. I'm sorry.
I've seen us win there, by the way. The game we won in the snow. I was there. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if the second one's coming this weekend. Shall we have where should we start? Let's start with you, Sid.
Mm-hmm.
What changes would you make for Saturday? Because I think there's probably a few that all of us would.
I mean, being honest, I say this. I hope that Lloydie isn't out. But obviously, if that does happen, it's probably going to mean Keenan Goff's going to have to come in, which is fine. But again, Lloydie would be the ideal. I mean, you're going to have to just stick with Gillespie, aren't you? I mean, you can't really change that right now unless you do play new guy. I would like to see Harry Clark start. And I think with the upfront situation, I think it's tough with Dykes because, I mean, first game he played, he got an assist. But then yesterday, he didn't really do much. He wasn't, the movement up top wasn't there. So, I mean, it's a difficult one how you do it. You either start Kelman or you start Dykes, or I mean, you could possibly even put Godden in there, but I think it depends on how his fitness is, because I mean, I don't think he was right to start last night, but you know, he did come on. But it is good to see him come on, because I think it was kind of lightens the mood. Well, it does for me, anyways. No, but I'd probably do that. I mean, again, the left back situation, it really does depend how you go with it. Ibby Fuller, I think he could go in there. It is a big shame about Harvey Nibbs. That could be his game. But yeah, I think you just have to go strong, because otherwise it's not going to end well. And if we do play like we did last night, I mean, anything could happen, but in my opinion, it won't look pretty. So yeah, I mean, the boys have just got to put on a strong face and kind of just go for the game, because you can't just sit back and defend. You actually have to go and try and score. But then again, if you go 1, 2, 3 down, you got to try and win it. So yeah, that's what I would probably go with.
Steve, just sort of piggybacking off of that on the some really interesting analysis. Sid, please start that Substack. The back three there. For me, I don't know how you get around going Ramsey right centre back, Burke central centre back, Macca left centre back, and then you're going to go probably put Clark on the right hand side. And then it sounded a little bit like in midweek he was saying that left wing back coming in may start. Would you start him in a South East London derby?
I mean, positionally and with the personnel that we have, it may not be that much of a gamble, to be honest with you. I would be having nightmares about playing Tyrese at left wing back on Saturday. I mean, that's going to be a very vociferous atmosphere. It's going to be a white hot atmosphere on Saturday, and it will probably be naughty in a lot of aspects in regards to what gets said, what gets shouted, what I don't know. I don't mind. I don't mind Tyrese operating at the top end of the pitch where he's potentially taking people on, but having that pressure to defend, to mark, to track. I think the atmosphere could be too much for. So if you've got a left back that's normally knows about playing there, he's relatively new in regards to this whole Charlton Millwall thing. It's the first game of his Charlton tenure, isn't it? It's a big game, obviously, and I'm sure everyone in the change room will remind him of that. But it might not be the gamble that everyone thinks it is. He might come in, play great, and crack on with it, which is potentially what we need. We just need someone to go in and do a job. But yeah, it needs to be given some thought, because let's have it right. We've got a tough game on Saturday. We've got a very tough game against a very physical side, against a very, very structured side that know what they're doing. And the manager's not bad either. He's probably looked at our weak spots and we'll be targeting those. And we all know, we all watch the games. That's our left-hand side is a massive issue for us, isn't it? So we shall see. But he may not be a bigger gamble as we think as a guy making his debut. It might work.
I hate to let everybody know, but Pompey have just scored at Watford. So,
oh goodness me.
Keeping this quite short. Paul, would you make changes in the midfield?
Probably not, to be honest. I think Corey played quite well. Sonny, yeah. Again, I'd probably keep it as it is, and then up top, as we've said, the Lieber and Dykes combination didn't work. So it's whether you decide to alternate, whether it's actually Linden that comes out. I'm not sure it will be, but whether you put sort of Charlie in. I mean, again, my mind's sort of bugging. I'm looking at Fotmob here. Look at the permutations. I mean, if he's going to play, he'll play TC. But I'd agree, he can't be a wing back. He has to be offensive. So that makes me think he'll probably play him up with Miles. So, but I mean, I think Harry Clark has to start. I'd agree, and it depends who you shuffle out really. Whether it's going. I mean, he came off for Reece, didn't he? So whether it's Reece, I mean, I think Kane did okay. So I'd imagine he'd probably stick with Kane and maybe bring Harry in for Reece. But yeah, it's just and then I'd hopefully Goddard will get more time than he has in the last couple of games. I thought give him at least sort of 15, 20 minutes against Derby, but clearly not. So hopefully he at least gets that against Millwall. But yeah, we just have to be, as I say, we just have to be up for it. I think with Chambers, he's got no baggage. I mean, he's heard about the rivalry, but he's coming in fresh. He wants to prove a point. So I can't imagine he'll be fazed by any sort of atmosphere. What passes for an atmosphere at that ground? So yeah, I'd hope he put him in. But again, it's down to Nathan's, as we've talked about, his natural caution. Will you put him in? I would certainly put him in. So,
and then Chris, just to close this out before we do score predictions.
Yeah.
Would you change the front two? I'd make the assumption we're going to have to.
I'd bring in Kelman. I'd have Maynard Brewer in goal. I'd have Mannion in goal, and I'd have Kaminsky in goal. And then just sort of stand there.
I wondered where you were going with
that. Exactly.
This is really good.
Yeah, I'd bench TC and have him come on as an impact sub because I think he's been best there this year. And Ibby, because they can both change the game. You know, Curbs always said game changers. So, you know, that's what I do. Not really about the 3 goalies, though. But
would you play Dykes or Lieberton with Kelman?
Dykes is sort of, I mean, good first when he came on and then did nothing really last night. I'd probably start Dykes and then see how, and then bring Lieberton on, see if he can change it. See if we can change the tactics a bit. You know, that's what I'd do.
All right then. So to close it out, shall we do score predictions? I'll start with me. I'm going to go with I'm going to hope to God it's a 1-1 draw. But I have limited hope. So my Charlton colours are probably showing. Why not? Give me a Lieberton Gart because it's an academy kid score against that lot. So I'll go with that. I'm not confident in it. I wouldn't go to your local shop and bet on that score, but that's what I'll go with. Steve?
I'm not confident at all in this one. I'm normally on the glass half full, but I'm really not on this one. 2-1 loss. Yeah, might be worse
for that, Watford. Thank God. Sorry, they equalised. my eyes are on clock watch. Sorry. Sid?
I mean, brain's telling me that we're going to lose, and if it's after last night's showing, we probably will lose. But then again, heart says 1-0, and Charlie Kelman goal, just because to rub it in their faces.
They could hold me behind in that horrible place for 3 hours if that was to be the case, and I'd be as happy as anybody. I'll stay there for as long as they want. That was the case. Paul, my predictions for Saturday.
Yeah, heart and head. So heart says 1-1, head says 2-1 to them.
And Chris, we'll close with you.
1-0, Sonny Carey.
Fantastic,
Chris.
Steve, do we got any predictions in the comments just before we go?
Yeah, people have had a little go in there. Yeah, Glenn shouted to get Tanto back in for Saturday. That might put the cat amongst the pigeons. An ex-Millwall player going back to Millwall. That might be a good one.
Can we take Ruben off the bench? Can we just make sure that we're all in agreement that is maybe the most pointless substitute person to have in the squad at this point? If you can't spell someone for 10 minutes, well, what is the point? Just put Apter back there. Get over it.
Exactly. Tom's gone for a 1-1. Mark's gone for a 2-0 loss in nothing recently, which makes me think we'll get anything from this. Steve Price hoping for a point, but I think we'll be 3-0 down by half time. It's on Sky Sports. We're always crap when we're on Sky. Chris has put 4-2 to Millwall. So yeah, a little bit of expected pessimism. But yeah, we're all hoping that we're going to have a heart victory on Saturday, aren't we? Not head, heart.
That would be nice. It would be nice. All right then. Well, I think we're just. So yeah, stay safe, everybody, on Saturday. I think they're saying they're not going to keep us in, but Lord knows that will probably change. And there's going to be some weird queuing system at the station. At least that's what I got from the directors thing. But I don't know if that's going to change or not. But look after yourselves.
Yeah.
Here's to hoping we can buck 30 years of history. Ricky. If anyone's got any hope of that, better person than me.
Yeah.
But thanks, everybody. See you all soon.
Yeah, lovely. Stay safe, everyone.
Take care.
See you later.
Cheers all.
Bye bye.